Hey babes, welcome back for another episode of the Babe That's Bonkers podcast. I'm your host, Kaylee Faria, and I am super duper happy to have you here. Happy Halloween. This is one of my favorite holidays. As a kid, I just loved getting to dress up. I have always loved everything like mythical, fantasy, whatever. Very into the witches and vampires and everything. I will say I probably never really grew out of that because I have been loving the wizarding world of Harry Potter these days and am just happy that I'm making it a part of my life, a part of my little fall routine, I guess you could say. It's been very fun, so I'm very excited for having a happy Halloween this year, and I'm happy to be celebrating it with you guys. I'm not technically dressed up, but I did steal all of my boyfriend's clothes today just so I could be like extra cozy and everything. Today's episode is going to be about the spooky season and just fall in general. Maybe a little late to the game in that regard, but over here in Arizona, this week is like the first week that things actually got like cool and chilly, and we're kind of wearing hoodies in the morning. My dog's loving it because she gets to be outside all day rather than having to take breaks in the middle of the day because it gets too hot. So yeah, this is my first week of fall to like really feel like I'm in it, and I'm loving every second of it. I've kind of realized that just every year I have a different favorite season for different reasons, and this fall I am just super into it. Like the vibes are just so nice. I'm just so excited, so ready to just be cozy all of the time. I'm very much a homebody, so just being at home, getting really cozy and watching movies is one of my favorite ways to spend time with myself, spending time with other people like my partner or friends or whoever. So yes, I'm ready for fall. We're here. So happy to be here. Before we jump into all the different like seasonal tidbits I have for the day, I figured I'd start off with a little bit of a life update. Officially today I have watched all of the Harry Potter movies this week. They were wonderful. It has been so fun to just have like movies playing on in the background to kind of switch things up. That's something I'll get into later. But yeah, I just wanted to point out that I have watched every single Harry Potter movie this week, and I am happier for it. What else? Something that has been game-changing in my life has been buying bread rolls. I don't know. I only ever really buy them for like Thanksgiving or something like that, or like some sort of like event dinner type thing. And I've just been buying them to have in the house, to just have like a little roll on the side with dinner. I've been making more like homey comfort foods that just pair really well with a little piece of bread. And it's so easy because you don't have to like make it the way you have to make garlic bread a little bit. Not that that's the hardest task in the world, but when you're already cooking dinner, extra steps are extra steps. You know what I mean? So I've just added bread rolls to my recent couple like grocery trips, and it's been game changing. Like even for like a little snack, I don't know. I'm Portuguese, and growing up we used to just always snack on Portuguese sweetbread with just like some butter or some cheese or something like that. Not necessarily the healthiest snack to just be eating bread all the time, but it is delicious. So every once in a while, I had a roll the other day with just some butter and some jam, and it just really hit the spot. I have been really enjoying it, and I highly encourage you to go buy just some sort of like special bread for yourself for the week. I think that is just something that has always elevated my eating habits, meals, whatever. I don't know, just spending the extra couple bucks to get like some nice bread from like the bakery section, not just from like the bags. Maybe just, have those for like sandwiches or whatever, and just like average meals. But whenever you're trying to do a little something, get some fancy bread, and it's probably better for you, fresher. I don't know if that's actually true, but I like to think it. But what else? Last thing for my little life update is that I have been journaling more. I think I don't know, this year has been kind of tough in a lot of different ways. I don't know, it's been a lot, but there's been a lot of really wonderful growth that has also been happening and a lot of learning, and life is just life sometimes, and we just got to keep on keeping on. And whenever life gets really busy, I kind of fall out of my like good habits. So past like month or two or something, I've been working really hard on just trying to like reintroduce those good habits into my routines, and it's been making me feel really good. And this week I have finally remembered that journaling has a really, really beneficial effect on my mental health. Whenever I'm feeling overwhelmed, I think that just like getting the thoughts out onto a piece of paper, not in any sort of like specific way, like I'm not telling a story, I'm not even like writing it in a way to like be reread, I just need it out of my head, and it kind of helps me realize what I actually feel like is important, if things are actually worth conversating about with others, if it's something I actually need to be stressed about, or if it's just a bunch of overthinking and anxieties and everything like that. So that's been good. I do have a lot of different ways that I like to journal, so maybe I'll have a little episode on that one of these days, but not today. Today we're talking about Halloween. So who cares about our mental health? We're trick-or-treating. So as we kind of dive into the meat and potatoes, you could say, of today's episode, there are just kind of like three main little segment topics that I'm planning on chit-chatting with you guys about today. It's just living seasonally. I would like to have an episode like this every season or around whatever holidays. So I'll dive into that in a little bit. And we're also just going to be talking about some fall favorites and Samhain, which is spelled Samhain, which is the like witch's new year, the like pagan version of Halloween, the original, perhaps, if you will. Yeah, those are just the three different little topics that I'm planning on getting into today. So let's just go ahead and dive in. The first little topic of today is just living seasonally. This is something that I just really want to embrace in my life. I think that the changes of seasons happen for a reason. All forms of life go through some sort of change as the seasons change, us included, and I think it is a great reminder to just like slow down or maybe even speed up, at the very least to remind us to reflect as we're going through a little change of the seasons. And I also think it's kind of a reminder that it's okay for us to go through different seasons of life in like an emotional, mental way. At least that's very much how I've been feeling recently. I've been feeling just like I'm like a stuck season of life, and I'm working on getting to the next season of life. I feel things changing, energy shifting in the universe. Maybe it's just Halloween, but maybe it's something else. Maybe it's more. Maybe it's magic. Anywho, as I'm kind of trying to embrace just living seasonally, there are a few different things that I want to start implementing into my life to kind of celebrate, the changing of the seasons and this time. I definitely want to be learning a lot more about nature-based holidays and celebrations. I find that these things are really, really interesting, and just as a human who likes to spend a lot of time in nature, these types of celebrations, as I've been learning about them, I feel really resonate with just who I am and who I want to be. And it doesn't mean anything crazy, like I think I'm a witch who can actually cast magical spells and powers. Maybe today, because today's Halloween, but any other day. I don't think anything crazy. I just think that there are a lot of opportunities for like reflection and introspection and gratitude within all of these like different teachings, different backgrounds, different traditions. So I just want to learn about them a little bit more and use them as a tool to just take pause and celebrate a little bit. I also want to celebrate living seasonally by eating seasonally. Hopefully, one of these days, growing my produce seasonally. That'll definitely force me to like prepare meals that fit within the season and just like fresh fruit and all that. Unless I'm growing in a greenhouse, and then you can kind of manipulate the controlled environment to be whatever season you want. But that's besides the point. That's just me nerding off into the plant science realm a little bit. But it's definitely one of my goals to just eat more seasonal food. Now that it's fall, I've definitely been trying to eat more like squash and zucchini and, you know, just warmer foods that feel more vibey during the season. Like now I'm really getting into the comfort foods. I'm making more pastas. I made a chuck roast the other day that was really, really amazing with just some like potatoes, carrots, celery, that type of thing. And yeah, I just think that it's a really great way to just ensure that your diet's going to have a lot of variety throughout the year and that you're able to get all of the different nutrients that you need from different ways. And, you know, I think it's just important to appreciate all the different fruits and vegetables. Like, they all have their time to shine, so I want to make sure I'm appreciating them because the plants they came from have been working very, very hard for them to grow up until this point. So I definitely want to toss them in some sort of yummy recipe and just appreciate some yummy fall food. And when it comes to growing seasonally, I don't have a veggie garden going at the moment, but I'm definitely researching in preparation for probably next year. My neighbor also has a pretty wicked garden going on that's super exciting. So if he happens to have any extra something, I will definitely share whatever spaghetti sauce or whatever I might make from it. I think that would be just a really fun way to feel a part of our little community. We're very lucky to have just friendly neighbors that are cool. I think that's very rare. I feel like I'm living like real life I Love Lucy a little bit, and I'm just appreciating that while I can because I definitely know that won't be the case everywhere I live. It's very likely that I might not have any neighbors in some places, or I might have a bunch of really crazy neighbors or a bunch of neighbors that I'm strangers with for the most part. I don't know. The times are different these days, so it's just kind of nice to be friendly. But anywho, I've been studying about kind of the zone that I'm in. I'm in zone 9 as far as the growing zones go. If you're into growing plants, I would highly recommend learning about which zone that you're in because that's going to let you know which fruits and vegetables and plants and whatever other plants is what I was going to say. What zone you're in is going to let you know what plants are going to thrive in the environment that you already exist in, so then you're not like working against yourself. I think I kill plants. I have definitely killed a lot of plants by purchasing ones that are just not meant for the environment that I live in and the space that I have to put them in. So those are just things that I've learned are very, very important to consider before purchasing. Otherwise, you're just spending money to prolong this plant's death. You evil plant murderer, torturer. Totally not talking about myself or anything. But if you happen to be in zone 9 like me, a few things that I have been learning or just reminding myself of refreshing up on, because I did study plants in college and I know a thing or two. It's just when you're not practicing it every day, things can slip away pretty easily. But zone 9 is pretty cool down here in Arizona because the fall is kind of like a second spring in a way. It's true just for all plants. There's a lot of different desert plants that are blooming right now. My allergies have picked up again all of a sudden now that it's October. Since the winter doesn't get too cold, you can like plant things throughout the winter season. So a lot of lettuces and different things like that could be very fun. Some broccoli, some herbs. If I had a larger gardening budget, I would definitely be planting flowers in my flower bed seasonally. I think that would be a really, really fun way to celebrate because it's kind of just a gift. I don't know, it would feel like a gift to myself, like just a bunch of flowers. They don't necessarily bear any fruit. You can't necessarily eat them, but they're beautiful to look at. And I just think that little things like that really enhance the life experience. Like, man, if I was doing my yoga next to a flower bed full of actual flowers instead of, I have aloe plants and they're fun, they're nice, I do love them, but they are all the same color, and I don't know, flowers are just prettier. And this is the season for snapdragons specifically, which remind me of my grandma, because she would plant them at this time, and she would always like squish the snapdragons to like make them like talk, or like say it's like a dog or something silly like that, which is just, I don't know, really special to me. So maybe next year I will make sure that I have the budget to have just like a little seasonal flower garden or something like that. Also very helpful to like attract pollinators if I were to be planting vegetables at this time. Lots of hopes and dreams over here, as you can see, but gardening is a very expensive hobby, at least to like start up and get into. So all in due time. Yeah. Where I've been getting all of my information for the like Zone 9 planting stuff has been like this site called So True Seed. I will link it down below so you can go ahead and check it out. I think they have monthly gardening plans for all the different planting zones, at least in the United States probably. So yeah, that could be fun. Let's virtually garden together or something like that. To continue on with different things I want to implement in my life to celebrate living seasonally or whatever, is doing seasonal swaps of not only my closet. I've gotten kind of good at that, at least like spring summer versus fall winter. I have 2 separate wardrobes that I switch out, but I would also like to do that with like my home decor. I would love to have just like seasonal bedding, seasonal curtains, rugs. Like I feel like just changing all the different like accent pieces, obviously not like couches and chairs and tables and like furniture or anything like that, but just the decor, the like extra pieces. We can get into the like details about decor in a moment. I just have one more last thing whenever it comes to living seasonally, and I think I really want to try like revamping my morning and evening routines for each season, because I have noticed, especially here in Arizona, where the summers are obviously very, very hot, and the spring and fall is very short, and the winter is actually cold. If you don't think it is, you're crazy, because I mean, maybe you just live someplace that's like actually really, really cold, that gets a lot of snow or something, but it gets cold here, like 40s or something. I don't know. I'm not a meteorologist, but I get chilly. I know that. But with all the different changes in the weather, I definitely switch up my routine. Like in the summertime, I have to walk the dogs in the morning. They simply cannot be walking in the middle of the day whenever it's 110 degrees. That is not humane. They are definitely to be napping, chewing on ice cubes and stuff like that when it's that time. But in the wintertime, I can kind of have a lot of flexibility. They can go on a walk whenever they want, or whenever I want. They wish they could go on walks all the time, all day long, just roaming the world free, controlling it, as evil dog masterminds do. Just kidding. Just kidding, Onyx. He's just napping over there. You can kind of see him down there. Where is I going with that? But yeah, just like revamping the morning and evening routines to fit in with the weather, because I definitely want to have like outside time be a part of my day, but it's very dependent on what the weather's looking like at that time, I think. That's kind of all I have as far as like living seasonally goes, so we can go ahead and roll right into some of my fall favorites this year. I like to kind of pick something for all the different senses. Trying to like do something for each of them is how I try to like romanticize my life and like make something a vibe. I feel like if I'm able to at least cater to 3 or 4 of them, 5's awesome, but it kind of just, I don't know, enhances the life experience of doing normal, boring things. And yeah, I guess it's also maybe like a form of habit stacking, technically. I don't know. Just bear with me. I'm gonna go through all the different like senses and something that has to do with fall to go along with them. So we're gonna go ahead and start with sight. going back to chit-chatting about decor, I feel like that's really what you have when it comes to like what you're looking at. I have definitely been wanting to collect more whenever I go thrifting or I'm at like Target or the dollar store and they have those little dollar bins and stuff. I have been collecting like little pieces here and there, but I haven't been as intentional about it as I would actually like to be, just to start compiling seasonal holiday decorations. Whenever I go to the thrift store or even just like Marshall's or anything, I've noticed that they definitely have like the sides of the aisles are just like little sections that are dedicated to different holidays, whichever holiday is most prominent at that time, which I think is cool. And I think I just need to take advantage of that a little bit more, so I can start just having decorations to use and put up without breaking the bank. I would definitely love to like fully decorate my house for Halloween with a bunch of like really cool matching aesthetic pieces or something like that, but for the season of life I'm in, that's not really something that I'm budgeting for a whole lot. So I think that focusing more on thrifting little pieces or taking advantage of little deals here and there, taking advantage of the sales once the holiday passes. Let me tell you, tomorrow I will be doing all of my Halloween shopping for next year. Because I think that embracing the seasons and making your life a little bit more like pizzazzed is how I would put it. It doesn't have to be expensive, or you shouldn't just be waiting and holding off until like you have the money to do things. Just do it, with whatever means you have at the moment in time. Something I've been wanting to do for a Halloween craft but haven't done yet because I've been concerned about rain at this time is whenever we were little kids, my grandma would always have us get paper towels and rubber bands, and we would like roll one into a ball and put one on top with a rubber band and like draw faces on them, and we would hang them in the trees. They were like cute little ghosts, and that's a craft I've definitely been wanting to try out again, but I'm afraid it's gonna rain and then I'm just gonna have a bunch of mushy paper towels hanging from my tree. But maybe it's worth it if it brings me a little bit of joy for a few days. Could be fun, and it's pretty cheap and easy things that I already have at home for the most part. That's really what I'm going for. I also think that just buying things that kind of cater towards like the seasonal color palette, swapping out like throw pillows or throw blankets or something like that can increase the vibes, I guess you could say. That's really just the goal of what we're doing with all of this, is we're trying to increase the vibes and just emanate whatever you think is the coziest fall routine for the most part, Last thing pertaining to the site portion of things is swapping out pictures in picture frames. Like, you can leave the frames being the same, but if you like get some just like seasonal digital downloads that you print yourself on Etsy or something like that, or take family photos that are like themed for like fall or spring, whatever, and swap those out throughout the year in the frames to kind of keep things fresh. I think that could be really, really fun and something that would be pretty affordable to do as a decoration, because you already have half of it. You probably already have a picture and you probably already have a frame. Just switch things up a little bit. And I also think that is kind of cool to just appreciate more than one picture. Like, you frame a picture and then it's just kind of living in there for the rest of its life. Or you can give another picture, it's time to shine for a little bit. But I don't know, maybe it's silly, but I think it's fun. So we're gonna go ahead and move on to the next sense, which is touch. This one also doesn't have a lot going on with it necessarily, but I always think of different fabric textures. So whether it's like your bedding, your blankets, your clothes, I think that just trying to like choose intentionally whenever, dependent on which season you're in. Like right now, I have really been loving this like chenille. I don't know, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, maybe not, who cares. But I've been loving this blanket because it is super soft, it's super cozy, but it's also like a little bit lighter and airy because it's something that's like crocheted, kind of. Not kind of, it is. Anywho, But I think it's like a nice in between because it's not necessarily like a flannel or fleece blanket or something like wool that is just super duper warm. That's probably better for winter. So that's kind of what I've been gravitating towards as far as like blankets and bedding, pillows, whatever. For clothes, I've kind of been like gravitating more towards cotton during the summer, like linens or lacy, lighter materials is definitely move, especially out here in Arizona. But I feel like cotton, like a nice cotton t-shirt, like exactly what I'm wearing now, something oversized that you don't own, so you don't have to do laundry for. Kidding, kind of. But I think it's a nice in between because, you know, it'll keep me warm, but it'll also keep me cool. Because that's just what fall and spring are. They're the in between. They're the transitional seasons, right? You know, something's happening rather than just like being as it is for a while. And the last thing for touch is slippers. I started wearing my like fuzzy Ugg slippers this week, and I'm so happy. It's like a really great in between like wearing like fuzzy socks and like staying very, very warm because they're sandals, so like the toes are still out. I'm getting some like airflow. This is so goofy to be talking about. Anywho, wear some fuzzy slippers, just whatever fabrics and feelings and things you want to touch that are just very nice and cozy and fall-like, of course. So we're gonna stop yapping about that and move on to smell, which I think is kind of obvious. You know, you've got your candles, you've got your essential oil diffusers or air fresheners and whatnot. But what I think is really nice to do during the fall, or I guess any season, is just kind of implementing, ensuring this in your daily routine. Like, I have been lighting my candles like first thing in the morning, so just throughout the day the house just, you know, starts to smell more and more like caramel and pumpkin and cinnamon muffins or whatever these candles are made of. And I don't know, it's just been a very cozy vibe. But yeah, just like adding it into your daily routine to light your candles in the evening routine, blow out the candles, or if you're not a candle person, turn on and off your essential oil diffuser or give like some like spritzes throughout the rooms, I think could just make a very, very big difference in the ambiance of the space that you're existing in, which I just think has a huge impact on how I feel throughout the day. You know, like if I'm in a space that's just very blah, I feel very blah. But if I'm in a space that's very ooh la la, that's exactly how I feel. And you know, I think we all know what kind of days we want to have more of. You know what I mean? So moving on now to sound. Something that I've been doing that is a little bit different in this regard this fall is that I have been playing shows in the background. Like I mentioned, Harry Potter. Now I have to find some new, different, nostalgic Halloween movies, or maybe not even nostalgic, but that's just what... Actually, if it's Halloween already, then I guess it's not appropriate to be watching Halloween movies, so I need to find Thanksgiving movies. I guess there really aren't Thanksgiving movies other than... Maybe there are. Maybe I feel like there's probably some like Thanksgiving-based comedies and definitely some Hallmark movies. That's got to be for sure. But other than like Charlie Brown, I can't really think of anything that has like Thanksgiving vibes. But I guess it doesn't really matter. It's just whatever you find cozy. Normally, I'm a big like candidate for just habit stacking by watching a show or listening to a podcast or playing music to make, you know, the boring parts of the day, like doing chores, a little bit less boring, or, you know, you get like a little 2-for-1 out of it. And usually to like create a vibe, have some ambiance, I usually go for music, some sort of instrumental. And I feel like, you know, jazz could have a nice vibe in the fall, but honestly, just watching like classic movies in the background has been so cozy. I also think it could be really cozy to put on one of those like campfire screensaver backgrounds. Maybe that's a little bit cheesy, but like I live in Arizona. You know, it's chilly, but not chilly enough to like need a fire or anything like that. So I can pretend with the help of technology. So last but not least, when it comes to the fall favorites, we are going to be talking about taste, which is my favorite of all of them. Kind of like what I was talking about before when it comes to eating seasonally and just eating according to the weather and the vibes of the season. This is something that I think is super duper fun, and I personally crave a lot of variety in my life, so switching things up seasonally like this just really sits well with me. And I'm also a big fan of like shopping at Trader Joe's, and they kind of require you to shop seasonally because a lot of their things they don't have all of the time. So I've definitely been trying to take advantage of all of their different fall treats. I had one of their like frozen meals the other day. I don't eat frozen meals a lot, but when I do, Trader Joe's impresses. I got this like butternut squash lasagna that was so good. It was so simple, but I just think the butternut squash as a vegetable or fruit or gourd or whatever you want to call it just is so magnificent in its flavor. I'm a huge fan, so I was very happy with that purchase, and I'm hoping that it'll be there whenever I get back or go back. But you never really know with Trader Joe's, which, you know, the anxiety that I have and the need to like, you know, make sure like I have my opportunity taken care of is a really great marketing strategy. Like I definitely buy more than I should whenever I think it's going to be gone. So good on them for being geniuses in that regard. Poor on me for now being poor because I just bought a bunch of frozen foods and desserts that I didn't need, but that I do need, you know. A couple other things I've been doing to like switch things up for fall in the realm of taste is switching up my beverage choice. I've been having a few more chais than coffees these days. I used to be really into the chai game, but since my partner and I started going to a roastery to get our beans from the guy we met at the farmer's market, he's super duper cool. It has been just game changing to have fresh coffee beans like that, and I'm now a snob and I will never go back and I will never drink coffee from anyone else. So I've taken a break from chai, but reintroducing them has been really nice. I think that chai specifically goes well with some of those like cozier flavors like cinnamon, nutmeg, all that kind of stuff. Sugar and spice and everything nice. Yeah, and the beverages are not to be forgotten. Like, as someone who loves to cook, loves to bake, loves to eat, I do feel so strongly at the end of the day that I am a beverage gal. Like, I always need a nice little something to sip on to help me get through the day. It is my favorite, like, little treat, if we're not talking about the little treat called dessert that I like to have after dinner. But this is a little treat that gets me through the day. And it's not even really a treat. Today I'm drinking a liquid IV. I'm trying to stay hydrated because that is important. And I just want it to taste good while I do it. So, yeah, I just didn't want to forget about the beverage as we do all of this chit-chatting about food and whatnot. But yeah, that is the last of like my little fall favorites. So we can go ahead and move on to the most fun topic of the day, I think, which is Samhain. I was reading this blog to kind of brush up and research on the topic, so I'm not just talking out of my ass for the most part. And it's called The Busy Pagan, if you want to check it out. I found the information super duper interesting and just exactly what I was looking for, so I'll link it down below if you're interested. If you need some spooky reading to help you fall asleep tonight, that'll be there for you. So Samhain, the like pagan version of Halloween, essentially goes from October 31st to November 1st, so it's kind of like a 2-day thing. But what I've like been reading a lot is that a lot of these like seasonal holiday festival types can kind of just be like drawn out throughout the week to just have more festivities, more celebrations, more little rituals and whatnot, which I think is super fun. I think that we should celebrate as often as we can in our lives, and that just kind of, you know, holidays don't need just a day. Give them a whole month. So we're just like celebrating month to month to month, different things. I don't know. Maybe that's silly of me, but kind of getting off topic. So Samhain was originally celebrated by the ancient Celtic people, and the festival marks the like end of the harvest season and beginning of winter, or the darker half of the year, in quotation marks. That is what I remember. But and it's not just a festival, but it's also a like profound spiritual celebration for a lot of different people. It is technically the witch's new year. It's when the veil between the realms of the living and the dead is supposedly at its thinnest. So it's not a time to be like conjuring demons and like spooky stuff. I mean, maybe whatever floats your boat. But what I think is a lot more meaningful is all the talk about remembering ancestors and honoring just the cycle of life and death, and you know how you can't really have one without the other. Doing some reflection during this time about things that you should probably let go of that no longer serve you. You know, some just like New Year's thoughts, and preparing for the winter ahead. I can only imagine in ancient times how like scary winter could be depending on where you lived. You know, things can be rough. They can be rough sometimes. But that's why it's important to prepare, and it's important to celebrate, because the good times are what make us able to like get through the hard times, I think. Anyhow, some activities that I read about that I think I'm actually gonna try to do this year for the most part to celebrate, because none of them are like super outlandish. These are just some of the activities that I think resonated with me the most, because I find them to be really, really meaningful, and I definitely see how it could all be considered a spiritual practice, which I'm a big fan of. But one of the activities is hosting a dumb supper on Halloween night, which is a meal where you set an extra place setting for the spirits, your ancestors, to join you as you share a meal. And while you're doing this, it's just completely silent. I think it's just giving space for the spirits and taking the time to remember them and honor them, which I think is just really, really sweet. Another classic Halloween thing is just carving jack-o'-lanterns, which is super fun. I'm definitely planning on doing that leading up to the days to actual Halloween for me. And I just think it's interesting to learn about the backstory of them. The original purpose of jack-o'-lanterns is to like ward off evil spirits, you know, while the veil is thinnest, which I think is important. You know, if you have some ancestors that you didn't really vibe with, you don't really want them haunting you. Yeah, that sounds like a not very good time. But I do think it's funny that like the origin story is like different but the same of like jack-o'-lanterns. I don't know, what I'm trying to say is like it all started with a turnip, not a pumpkin, which I think is really, really funny. The story that I read on the blog is about Stingy Jack, which is someone who tricked the devil twice, and he ended up cursed to walk the earth with nothing but a like hollowed out turnip with a burning coal inside to like light his way. So that's where the idea of the jack-o'-lantern came from, and then it kind of got converted into this like tool to ward off spirits, and then just became a classic commercial part of Halloween, it seems. I mean, I'm no expert, but I did read recently, so take what you will. Another little activity that I think is really fun and is also something I always really, really wanted to do as a kid. No one would let me because it involved fire, but having a bonfire and kind of like writing down the things that you want to let go and tossing it into the fire to burn away is one of the little spiritual activities that I read, and I think that is just super fun. I mean, fire is important to keep warm as things are chilling down, and yeah, I don't know, I always wanted to do that as a kid for like New Year, so it makes sense that like that's what would happen for the like witches New Year type thing. See, I was just already spiritually connected to these things. I just didn't know it at the time. And now I'm an adult, so I can start fires if I really, really want to. You know? Not recommended without safety precautions. However, I do want to state that. Yeah, and the other activities I read that are definitely very, very doable and don't feel like too much in terms of like witchiness. One is just doing like a nature walk and collecting little leaves. I can't really do that living here, at least in southern Arizona. There aren't a lot of trees here, and the ones that do don't really change colors. There's a few hidden about. Maybe I should just go and like search for them. That could be a fun little fall activity. But I just thought that was really cute. I love a good nature walk, just regardless of collecting leaves or not. But that's a fun little something, and then you can like turn it into a craft or put it in a scrapbook or something. I don't know. I'm cheesy like that. So another is just like meditating, taking the time to reflect, maybe journal about the new year, the things that you're trying to let go of and things that you're trying to like prepare for as the seasons are changing and we're moving into the darker half of the year. And last but not least is storytelling, which always really excites me, of course. The classic ghost stories is kind of a way to go about that, but also just like telling stories about or from your ancestors is something that I read that I just thought was really, really sweet and meaningful. I think that would be a great thing to do like after a dumb supper, hosting a dumb supper, honoring your ancestors, sharing that meal with them in silence, and then after that, whoever the living that you're spending the evening with, you can converse and share different stories about whoever you were thinking of or whoever you felt like was sitting at that empty, place seating with you for the night. So yeah, I just thought all of those things were really, really special and meaningful and very, very doable and not just too far out there. But I'm not done yet because we have to talk about food once again. This site gave some just like traditional Samhain meals or, foods, dishes that you could cook or bake during this time to celebrate. One of them was soul cakes, so just like a little cake as an offering to, your ancestors, and I thought it was really sweet that you kind of did that in exchange for prayers, which, I just thought it was really sweet. I mean, just imagining, at least I personally imagine that people who I have lost in my life, that they're watching over me, their energy is just looking out for me, and I just know that they would want the best for me, so I feel those good vibes from them in the universe and whatnot. So to kind of like use this time as like, here's your little cake for like taking care of me, please continue to do so, I think is just really cute and sweet. The second one, which I think I am definitely going to do for my Halloween dinner, is cooking a beef stew. I think I maybe mentioned earlier that I've been dabbling with chuck roasts, and that has been really, really fun. So I'm gonna try it again and just add some extra brothy, soupy water juice to it. Because that's all you really have to do to make it a stew, right? Is it's just like cut up instead of all together. But anywho, the reason why a beef stew is one of the meals to celebrate Samhain is because it's like celebrating the final harvest, so you have all of these like vegetables that you need to use, so that you got your like roots veggies, your potatoes, your carrots, and other things like squash and whatnot. So maybe I'll try to make this stew with some fruits and veggies that I haven't been using for my roasts yet. That'll be a nice little switch up. But at this time, at least back in the day, they would typically cull their cows before winter. So they would have all this like beef that they would need to start using and preparing. So yeah, that's kind of the story about Halloween beef stew. And I'm probably going to pair it with the next item on the list, which is apple cider, which I think is really fun. I love a good apple cider. And when I was doing reading, it was really intentional because the apple represents like immortality, which I could understand how that theme would be present on a day where like the veil between the different realms of the living and the dead is at its thinnest and whatnot. And cider, on the other hand, represents celebration. So celebrating those two things via apple cider. I don't know, maybe life's really not that deep, but I think that giving meaning to the little things just makes everything a little bit more fun. Like, why not find meaning in it, you know? There were also a couple different recipes that the blog mentioned that seemed to be a little bit more traditional in terms of like the ancient Celtic times. One was called Colcannon and the other one was called Barmbrack. Both of these were like traditional Irish dishes, the first being like mashed potatoes and cabbage and the second being like a fruit bread of some sort. And both are made with like little charms embedded into them. So whenever you eat one, if you get one, it's supposed to like predict your future, which I just think is like a really fun like social festival type game. And who doesn't really love just some, I was gonna say potatoes and cabbage, but there might be a fair amount of people who don't love cabbage. But paired with mashed potatoes, how can you complain, really? So if you're interested in more things relating to Samhain, the pagan Halloween, go ahead and check out that blog. I will link it down below. And there's a lot more on there regarding different symbols, colors, crystals, herbs, different folklore tales and deities that have to do with the holiday that I found super duper interesting, but I'm also not going to sit here and just read the whole thing to you, just kind of what resonated with me the most and what I think sounds really fun and what I plan to try to implement into my holiday celebrations. Because as much as I love Halloween and just thinking about the way I grew up, wearing costumes, trick-or-treating, it was really, really fun. But now that I'm older, I feel like, I don't know, I just really want to give holidays a little bit more meaning outside of like the different commercial aspects of them. And I think that relating them back to nature and reflection and just like the natural cycles of life is the direction I want to go in because it resonates with me. So I think it's cool. That's kind of all we have for today. I have been yapping and chit-chatting for quite a while now, but it's been a really, really fun time. I hope you learned a thing or two and simply enjoyed your time hanging out with me this happy Halloween. I would love for you to join us next week, next Thursday, next First Friday. If you know, you know. We're going to be talking about how babes need to meet their basic needs because taking care of ourselves is very, very important. So we're going to be chit-chatting about a lot of different things pertaining to health and wellness and self-care and stuff like that. I think it'll be a really fun time, you know, fun little girly chat if you're feeling it. Yeah, and once again, thank you so much for being here. If you enjoyed this little episode, I would love if you could leave a rating or a review. Please subscribe so you know whenever our next episode is coming out. If you want to be up to date on all things relating to the podcast, check out the description below and I will have our Instagram linked as well as my personal Instagram and any other things relating to the whole little bonkers world I'm building over here. I really, really appreciate your support. I am so happy to have you here. I'm so happy to be here. And until next time, bye babes.